Hi guys, welcome back to episode 3 of Following Us Opening a Practice Cold. This one is going to be about funding. So actually this is my third time that I'm recording it. I didn't realize I was such a talkative person until I started recording this specific episode. So I'm going to try to condense it down, be very succinct. So basically for funding, there's a lot of routes that you can go. You can either have been self-funded, or get money from your family members or friends and get them to be investors or lend you money. But I think the majority of us, what we do is we go out to find lenders that can provide the capital needed. So I'm going to primarily talk about two lenders, because these two I think are the best in knowledge about optometry specifically, because you guys already know optometry is kind of a unique field. It's healthcare, but at the same time, it's also equally important in the retail side. So we do have an interesting combo. So let me go over actually the first lender. They're called Vision One. And in case you guys are interested, this is going to be on the FLOE website. So that's FLOE, FLOEppm.com. If you go to resources, you scroll down, and right here we have this little file. You can either download or view it. But let me go over this with you guys. There's so much good information in here. I really strongly recommend you guys actually go through it and read it if you're serious about owning a practice. But the part that I want to highlight today is their advantages and disadvantages of either starting up or acquiring a practice. And the reason why is because the amount that you want to take out as a loan, it really depends on which route you're going to go to. So I wanted to cover this part and then also give you my thoughts. So let's start off with advantages. Advantages of a startup is obviously you have control over everything, the design, staff. You can even start the systems, what kind of frames you want to carry, and how you want the patient's experience to be. You definitely have a lower investment, especially if the break even is in less than a year, which is possible. And then for the advantages from acquiring an existing practice, you get immediate cash flow because the practice is already running. You also have a lot of performance track records that kind of help you forecast for any frame selection and purchases. Same thing with lenses, contact lenses. All the systems and processes are already in place, so you don't have to worry about that. But there's a caveat to that, so we'll go over that later in the disadvantages. It already has established vendor relationships and the staff. So staff already knows how to run everything ideally. So if the doctors were to change, at least the front end would stay the same. Little bit of my thoughts on that. I do believe the advantages, obviously, well, let me backtrack. You guys already know that I'm very pro private optometry, but more specifically, I'm more pro opening a practice cold. And the main reasons are actually right here in this little chart. You have so much more control. You can set the tone of the office. You can select the staff members that you want involved in your work family. You can create the system that you want as efficiently as you want. And the way that it looks, because to me, I think the way that it looks is very important, that you can also control. So there's a lot of say that you have at the beginning. In the acquiring part, I feel like, yes, a lot of this is really good. Obviously, the immediate cash flow is excellent, but a lot of this actually, you can easily argue that it can be a disadvantage. And actually, Vision One does a really good job about doing that. So let's go straight into the disadvantages. So the disadvantages of starting cold. You don't have an existing patient base. You have a negative cash flow for as long as, depending on how quickly you grow the practice. And you have to supplement your living costs from an outside source. Higher risk, little vendor support, and the doctor has a huge learning curve for the business side and also the management side. and you have larger number of priorities because you are going to be wearing a lot more multiple hats at the very beginning, and higher marketing costs. For the existing practice, you inherit all the inefficiencies. Same thing with the staff. If there's something that the staff kind of made a bad habit of doing, it's really hard to fix. A lot of the times, the facilities and the technology, the equipment, it is dated, and you can tell. So that needs to be updated. And a lot of patients may not follow the new doctor. That's always a risk. So yeah, I think this kind of encapsulates pretty well a snapshot of the disadvantages of both sides. So to kind of go briefly over my thoughts of that, I think out of all of these, the main thing we want to focus on is the staff. The staff is actually the important part of the practice. This is what all the patients come to know, and they're the ones kind of running the efficiency and the patient flow. So all of the patient experience, which you guys know is the number one important indicator of whether a patient will return to your practice or not, heavily relies on the staff and how they run the practice. I've seen a lot of practices that were purchased where the new doctor has been trying to improve the flow, but it's really, really hard because let's look at it from the staff's point of view. The staff that's been there, they've been there for a while, let's say 5, 10, 30 years. And the reason why they stayed with them for this long is usually because they really like they really like the doctor, number one. But number two, they've become complacent and very comfortable in their work. So they probably like the relationships they have with their fellow staff. They probably like the patients, but the flow is already established. So imagine having to work for a whole new boss that you don't really know in most cases, and they want you to change stuff that you're very comfortable with. You're going to have that kind of obstacle and kind of clash at the beginning. And the only way to kind of circumvent it is if you can offer the employee something else in return for wanting to change or implementing changes. So one way that's a very obvious way is to offer them more capital. And so maybe implementing a more generous bonus structure, or you can get very creative with that. That can help. But again, you're kind of going back to you're increasing the amount of debt that you have at the beginning. So you're increasing spending, which is actually a no-no. So that I think just is such an important part that I don't even want to venture into trying to change a work culture in an existing practice. I think also there is a lot to be said and a lot of value in being able to create the dream office that you want. I think it's not measurable in terms of metrics, like it's not going to be something you find in your financial statement, but there's something to be said about being able to bring to life your vision of the office that you've been wanting. It's just, I mean, it just gives you this sense of pride and just excitement to come into work. Like I said in I think it was the first episode, there is going to be a lot of work involved at the beginning, a lot of heavy lifting. But if you're willing to do that, I really believe that it pays off in multiples in the future. So let's go over to the other lender. So this is actually Wells Fargo. This is their application. I kind of wanted to go over, the stuff that they would ask for once you apply to become a client of theirs. So just kind of looking through it so I can highlight some of the important things that stand out to me is this is more geared to somebody that's buying an existing practice. I just want to kind of throw that out there. When you're you're borrowing money for opening a practice cold, it's kind of similar, but they do require more personal information. So they'll ask for your personal financial statements just to get an idea of what you where you are financially. And it depends on the lender, but sometimes they will ask you to provide collateral because it is a bigger risk when you open a practice cold. But let's go back to this application right here. This is all standard. They're going to ask for basically a snapshot of how the existing practice is doing. They're going to ask for they usually ask for the last 3 financial statements, and just information of where it's located. And over here, it's a little bit, it varies from practice to practice. The equipment, how much do you have? Working capital, how much do you think you'll need? Private equity loan, line of credit, do you need it? Leasehold improvements, an estimate of how much tenant improvements or work you're going to have done to the office. And basically all of this, I think the thing that most people don't realize until they get to this part is you should know how much living expenses you need, because most likely you're going to either have to work and supplement that income, or you'll need family members to help you cover that cost at the beginning, because you will be minus. And then right here is kind of where the loan amount that you're asking for. And then here it's kind of a little bit more dependent on what is it called, yourself. So it's more personal stuff depending on your background. And then this is just, everything else here is obviously you're going to have to read. But I'm just trying to find anything where it would be interesting to you guys. Also, you probably want to include a resume. I think that's what this is, just so that they know what your background is, how long you've been out of school for, any work experience you've had. That kind of will help. One thing I did notice in the Vision 1 packet was that they really recommend having a consultant help you, especially if you're opening cold, because they understand the value of a consultant and how they can help with improving inefficiencies, seeing all the potential problems that can pop up. And I'm pretty sure Wells Fargo would feel much more comfortable for the same reason. And then, yeah, this is the financial statement for the practice loan and your personal financial statement. Just kind of giving a snapshot of how you're, again, doing financially. But yeah, if you guys want a copy of this, I actually do have the contact information of the person that's specifically for optometry. So go ahead and email me. I'll go ahead and put the email up on the screen. And also, if you guys have any questions, of course, feel free to shoot me an email. I will try to answer it as quickly as I can. But yeah, this is, I think, a little longer than expected. But so to kind of give you guys an update on the location, we are still looking for the location, and actually we extended our reach a little bit more to kind of include more different cities, because we are finding that the city that we initially were looking at is pretty saturated at this point, and we don't think it can support another private optometry office. So we expanded our search, and then I'll actually keep you guys updated in the upcoming episodes. So stay tuned. Thank you.